All right, we are trying to go live. That's what we are trying to do. We know that it's going to be, we're trying to see if we can go live. We've been having some difficulties, but we are, see what the outcome would be. Okay, I think we are going live, gentlemen. I think we are live in that. Let me see if I can, all right. Okay, okay. We was having some difficulties on our cameras and trying to, well, on mine anyway, right? So those of you that are joining us, we are so grateful that you're hanging in there. We're sorry that we are late in that. So we're grateful for that. Let me see. I had to change up a lot of stuff here. And so, okay, we do have some of them are still in the room, I guess, in that. And so we want to just give them a quick shout out. But we're gonna go ahead on in this. So we will see. This is all about power up in that. So, all right, okay, all right, all right, okay. I think it's a good topic of what we do are going to try to get into. Talking about the outcomes often differ from our expectations, right? They normally do that, and this is loaded. So normally we do it in twos, but we may have a third one or a fourth one in this. We're not for sure in that, but in life we often have that. I think about the sometimes the trials and stuff that we do have, and the expectation of something. And I really want to encourage us to somehow I wish I could have had this concept earlier, and I guess in life you always say that, but from time to time I kind of forget this, is sometimes my expectations maybe for others and then also for myself is too high, right? And so that causes me not to be effective if my expectations is real high, in that. And so we'll deal with, the life challenges that we have, and it's gonna shape our spiritual growth in these things. So we're gonna probably walk through this, kind of learn. Maybe we can kind of learn to adapt that, but we're going to only do that as we embrace our scriptures, as we embrace our walk, right? And so it always affects our career, it affects the things that we are doing, how we learn, how we embrace different things, and in the expectation of that, right? Before this might be just a side note in that, if I could just pull over for a second. It was often on my heart this week, and I don't know, uh, but I want to, when I thought about the expectations for those of us that are going to get married, or those of us that are already married. One of the things I want us to understand, when we use the word, if we use the word love, love is a lifelong thing, right? And what I'm trying to say is, in the sense of you loving, you loving. So sometimes people get married, they say, "Oh, I fell in love. Or I'm in love with that person." Well, that's going to be kind of difficult, and I think that's where, if you have the wrong expectations of something, then it's not going to end well, right? But it can end well, but it's going to be difficult going through there when the expectations is wrong, right? Because that's the reason, once we get into a, say, a marriage or something like that, and I'm using that, is, we have these feelings when we get married, and what we see in each other is things that we want and things that we appreciate and things that we like about the person. But I just wanted to drop this as a side note, that love is ongoing to the end. Then you can say I love that person. So love is looking back on it, and then I say I can love that person, right? That's what it is. And so sometimes we use language like I fell in love, I love him, and all of these things. And we use it, with one another. We use the brotherly love with one another. Say, brother, I love you, brother, you love me. And that love thing is kind of just thrown out there. But somewhere, maybe in part two, I will put more into this. But I want us to get that in our mind that love is ongoing. When you get married, you seeing something in that. For the most part, it's not. You can use the word love, right? But these are strong feelings, right? And you see something that person can help you with. You see that helpmate in that person, right? The man see the helpmate in that woman. They see that. They see the security and all of those things that you're looking at, and it has to be that way, because sometimes when people will begin to say, oh, I don't feel the same way I felt before, because they thinking that somehow the love is complete. When I love you, it's complete, but that love goes on, right? It goes on, and that's what the love is all about, and that it goes on. And so I just wanted to, because the expectations, we can get into a lot of different areas, and I want to get in areas to just to make us meditate and to think and to search our own selves. Those are the things I want to do. So we can become in aligned with our expectations. Maybe we'll talk about when expectations are too high, and then it can be disappointments too in our expectations too. And all of this is as we walk in with the Father, but it translates to one another. It translates to your wife. It translates all of those things. And so it can be disappointing sometimes too, if your expectations and your outcome could be a challenge to you. But it always going to take a stretch of faith, right? Or belief, and those things can challenge our understanding about the scriptures. It can challenge us. But when we know that we even read in our scriptures, Joseph, one of the things that he went through, and then all of the expectations that he might have had, but he had to go through some things. And so that's part of the things I want to say now is I think that sometimes we have expectations that's not on the reality table. It's not on the reality table, and it could get you really get you in trouble when you do those things. So we want to talk a little bit about just kind of shifting our perspective and allowing our belief or our faith to grow in the things of the Father. And maybe we can get into some examples in those things, but we'll drop off into some deepness because you have to have a deep trust when we thinking about these expectations and how we carry out different things in our lives, right? So we want those things to be that. So just to get us started, my brother, why do we think that it can be so challenging sometimes in our expectations? Because we know that how it is with the Father, but why is it so challenging in our expectations when we anticipate something and then it doesn't come to pass? What are some of the things how should we handle some of those things? Should it be before or even after? Or have you ever just came across a situation and your expectations was higher and it didn't fall through in that? So I just throw a couple of things out there to try to get us warmed up and see what's going on. So Jedediah, you can step up to the plate if you like, and uh, just share some thoughts that you have about the title we have on today.
Oh, yes, sir. All praise to the Most High. Um, I, as you were saying, all the things you were saying, I think that the number one thing that we can fall short in when it comes to expectations is in marriage.
Mm-hmm.
There's just it's so much stuff that goes on in a marriage that we see certain things a certain way, and the other person don't see it that way,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I think that the challenge is because of the world we live in. To me, I think that's my opinion, because
Yeah.
the world paint things a certain way, and we try to grasp onto those things, and, like how you said, it's not reality. It and it doesn't fit everyone's lifestyle. You know, the things that we're trying to bring into our life is not even a part of our environment. So it's just that we have to be careful when we're trying to paint our life around what the world is trying to offer us or what the world is showing us. You know,
Right.
the expectations to live in this country is you know, I know they used to always say a house with a white picket fence. You know, it's not meant for everyone to have that. So when you get to that point and you can't get that, you know, it's like, how are you going to react to that? And it's so many things that can get in our way of that can be challenging for us. So, like I was saying with marriage, you know, I remember in my relationship, especially early on in my marriage, I had all these expectations and how I believe my wife should be, you
Yeah.
know, but I had to learn over time that's not the way it goes. You know, I put, and then not only that, I put unrealistic expectations on her, and it made life harder, not just for her, but for me as well. And so I just think that when we dealing in relationships, you have to be realistic. You have to examine, um, is it what I really want? Can this thing really happen? Can we go about doing it this way? And then you have to consider others as well, because we don't want to fall into a place when it's all about me, me, me.
Oh yeah.
Because when it's all about me, 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 you ain't you won't get far in a relationship. So that's my take on it, Elder.
All right. Beautiful. Yehoshua, what you're thinking?
Oh, this is amazing. This is absolutely amazing. I give all esteem and honor to the King of Kings, Yahweh, and His Son, our Messiah Yeshua.
Hallelujah.
I'm 100% floored that this is where Yazruach has led you, and I'm excited because it's just awesome. It's right on time. If you needed a witness, I could just play back my life for you real quick. I think even you and I spoke about this last week. I'm being an on-call technician, so if I didn't have work for 6 hours, I kind of enjoyed that. And here comes the end of the day, and now I've got a lot to do, and now I'm upset because why? I expected things to go different, and the way I see things in my mind really creates like this border that it makes it hard for me to either get along or find the shalom or even find a place of relating. Why? Because everything that I see is the way it is. It's really easy to get like that, and I think when you're talking about how our outcomes differ, that's the part I always feel like that's where I'm making the adjustment. I'm making the adjustment back to reality. Why? Because I skewed everything in my mind. And when you brought that up about marriage, 100%. Marriage really highlighted for me all of my ways that I didn't even know I had. How selfish I can be. If you didn't think that you were a manipulative person, then get married. You're gonna find out there's some ways that could pop up, or there's all these different things that can happen. And what really highlighted that for me, and just like Jedediah was saying, in a sense, like what was really where my outcomes differed, in my expectations for marriage, was I didn't know who I really was. So when I got married, trying to figure those things out and realizing all these different things about my character that showed up over time that I was even shocked about, you know and it could take a long time to figure those things out, and still, I think a lot of people are still figuring them out in their marriage. And we have to find those opportunities to bring back shalom. And it's kind of like, what is the standard of a man? A lot of people, when you
Mhm.
come into marriage, or what is the standard of a husband? What is the standard of a wife? I think often it's brought out there should be some agreements that are made. Have a covenant of what is the standard you want to have your marriage ran by. Like chores, or any sort of marriage rights or anything like that. Have those things agreed on. But what do you do when those things don't go the way you thought they would? You know, and I really believe, like the scripture says, that the man is the that his wife is a weak vessel, but then the man is a weaker vessel. I didn't realize how weaker I was. In a sense, like, not that I'm weaker than he's not putting that the man is weaker than the woman. The woman's weaker than the man. I said it backwards. My apology. But the whole point was the weakness in me was highlighted. So that showed that the expectations that I'm being held to need to change, because I still need to change. I still need to grow. And so there's just, when I'm thinking about what does it mean to have to live understandably together, to have respect for one another, to bring together in the unity, so that my prayers aren't hindered. I believe that I have to come to terms with what's expected of me, and then even, have to have some discussions of, with my wife in that area, just because, you're never done growing until you die. So I just believe, there's a lot that goes on in the realm of expectation. And if we have them set in a, like Jedediah was saying, more of a worldly standard, or the way I like to use it is fairy tale in movies. I believe Hollywood sets a lot of the expectations for a man. If someone is expecting their man to be like a Hollywood guy, they're going to have to come to realizations that that's fictional, and that the same thing with a man. He's going to have to come to terms with his wife is not like these women that you see on the movie screen. So I don't know. There's just so much behind that for me. So learning those things or changing my expectations is definitely, I'm here to learn what you had to say. It was good.
I think that once we laid that the marriage part of that on the table, and then you guys begin to eat of that, I think that's a good place to on the first session anyway, and hopefully we will have a trouble-free part two, but we know how that is. In that is the dealing with the marriage part. Now, even though somebody was maybe listening to this, they would say, "Well, I'm not married," but this can go with relationships in general of what we're about to say, because you're gonna carry yourself into a relationship, whether it's a permanent one with your wife or husband or however you do it, right? So whether it's permanent or whatever, you will have those relationships. Now, most times we go into something, the expectation is already set. So when we meet people, when we maybe we heard about that person before we got there, the expectations are set. And I think you guys were saying that most times the people around us, the media and all of that, they set some expectations that's there that are not realistic, right? And so we will go looking for those things, right? We'll look for those things in a husband, or we look for those things in a wife, right? So, and then we'll look for those same things in just people in general, in that. So the thing is the comparison to. Sometimes the expectation causes you to compare, and we can't do that because our scriptures tell us, Father has told us, don't compare ourselves with ourselves, right? Because you can always elevate yourself over someone like that. But we are servants of the Yeshua, and we never elevate ourselves like that or compare ourselves to that. But what happens to us is, since I am talking on this and I have a wife, just be mindful. I may not say husband and wife, but that's what I'm talking about. So the expectation of your wife may be way up there of what you have as you was growing up as a teenager, as you was doing those different things. You in your mind you say this is the wife that I desire, and that's okay, right? But the one that you chose may not fit up with the one that you created in your mind, right? And so now the one that I created in my mind, that's what I want to transform my wife to, right? But that's a whole different person there. So she may not see those expectations. I may not see those expectations in her, and then that's going to bring about a rub because I have, I said, oh, well, you may not be like, I seen so and so they like, or you may not, or why don't you, and all of these things because my expectation was real high. Instead of us just say growing together, something that draws you together. We all have something that uh, brings us together. Whether you married or not, brothers, we have something in common. We something that we appreciate about one another causes us to work together like we do, even here on Power Up and to discuss in the assembly. All of these things, there's something there that we have, right? And so it's okay maybe to have your goals and the expectations, but the things is I know that the high expectations sometimes, and if that person don't reach that, if you take it out on that person, then it's going to be a problem. It's okay to have high expectations for somebody. We'll use the word goals or whatever, but my relationship cannot be based on that if they do not reach that. So a lot of times we judge people because they have not reached the expectations that I thought, you know. And so sometimes it's easy to forget that because your expectation could be high. Well, why do you do this? And so we'll go through this, and I'll let you guys drop some of these thoughts too on this. What I'm about to say is let's deal with a couple of things that people we need to understand as people, right? As men and women of the Most High, right? This is what we in covenant with Him, right? If I'm just using a couple of situations, and then you guys can chime in on those too. If I think that everyone say I tell 5 people to meet me somewhere, if I think everyone is going to be on time, if my expectation is they will be on time, I just set that expectation too high because someone's going to be late, right? So my hope is that we all would be on time, but if my expectation is that way and somebody is late, then I have a tendency to take it out on the person that is late because my expectation was too high. I set something that's not on, and I've been using this idiom is not on the reality table, right? You can sit that we have a desire that everyone be on time, but that's not going to work, right? So when something comes differ from what my expectation is of something, then I have to learn how to love and adjust in that, right? I have to learn how to. So the person that was late, you know, yes, we understand that we're late. Maybe you caused everybody else to be late. Uh, if you're going somewhere or doing something, but the expectation is everyone to be on time, and that's always been there. But what settles me, give me shalom, is that there will be somebody that's going to be late. Now, if everybody's on time, all well and good, we can take off. But if I get in my feelings because someone's late, and I'm just using this, somebody's late, then my expectation of that was really too high. And it wasn't on the reality table. So when we set our goals and our expectations, make sure that we take a peep at this reality table to make sure that that what I'm about to do is fair, is something that I can grab onto, right? Because we're talking about those relationships and trusting the Father in those things, right? So can you guys think of anything in similar to what I'm talking about in that if you kind of get the gist of what I'm saying in that? And if not, you can always ask me and I could try to clarify a little more.
I guess I'd say like with my children, dealing with with them, dealing with any child, it takes patience,
Mm.
and exercising patience with children is very important because I tell my children to do something, I do expect for them to get it done. You know, but like you said, I could just possibly be giving them something that may be too difficult for them. The task may be too hard for them. I got to examine myself in that. Did I show them how to do it? Do they understand the whole thing of how it should be done? I say go in there and wash the dishes for me, but they never washed the dishes before. I never showed them how to clean a plate, how to properly clean the plate, how to rinse it. And then I come in there, and still food on the dishes, there's soap all over it.
Yes.
But my expectations for it is to be clean. So I set myself up for failure in that one, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But if I'm taking the time to show them and I'm working with them and we're doing it together, then I say, okay, you're released to do it on your own. You can wash the dishes on your own. You can sweep the floor on your own because I showed you. Now I created a realistic expectation in that.
Okay. Okay. Beautiful. Beautiful. So yeah, you just put out on the table how do you fix that? And once you release them, then your expectations went up, you know, in that because you weren't going to release them unless they can do it, you know. Or if they never
Right.
get the hang of it, then that's where your expectation should be, right? I want you to do better, but if I come in there and there's still, food on the fork, I know you always have problems with forks, you know. And this is gonna help our relationship, like you said, with the children, with everyone, right? So that was outstanding in that, and bringing the whole picture about the reality table. So you looked at the reality table, and the reality table is I have to know that you can do this first. Now, one of the things that I always had is if somebody said if somebody say, I say, how old are you? And they're 28. My expectations went to 28, brethren. But I know now that it shouldn't have did that. And I'm saying like, why should a 28-year-old shouldn't be doing that, right? That wasn't a fair expectation to them. It doesn't matter how old you are. You could be 48, right? Yes, my expectation is that you at 48 that you can do a check. You can do a checking account, right? But you may not. You may not can. You understand? But my thing is the person that was 48 and couldn't do it. It disturbed me because I figured that you should be able to do that, right? So my expectation was too high. So I'm sure we get probably more into that. Is that how you adjust your expectation for somebody is how you grow with them. That's the reason you have to grow in love. I know we use that love. I married her because I loved her. Yeah, well, that can be put on the table. That could be on the reality table because 5 years later you got a divorce, right? And why was that? You know, you don't separate from something that you love like that. From what we saying, that's the reason I'm putting on the table. It don't have to be that love is long and lasting. So you loving. I'm gonna drop that again. You loving. So I was just getting your host. I was trying to let you get a chance to get your thoughts together in that. So come on up, my brother.
Well, I just really like what Jedediah was saying. I think all of us as parents can relate. We all know when one is lacking in something, and I think that we should handle that appropriately. Is that if I wanted to highlight anything, it would be on the latter half after the correction was given and the expectation. I now know you can do it,
mm,
and I get less than what you showed me you can do. That's the part that I struggle with, or that I've learned to adjust for, because it's not the same. If you've got A plus student and then they give you a C, and you're like, okay, well, this is out of the norm for you. Like, now what do I do with my expectations? Um, things change sometimes, and that's hard to adjust to. The other thought that came to my mind when you were saying that is that whole conversation Yeshua had with a certain ruler, and he says, "Well, you're a ruler and you don't know this." So sometimes it's kind of weird to think that just because you assume somebody is in a particular position, like when you were saying, oh, I want everybody to be here on time. Okay,
Hmm.
well, if I expect everybody to be here on time just because I said so, and that should be a standard, it's kind of weird, to think that we're okay with doing less than what was expected. So I just think if that is the case, then well, since I believe it isn't the case, I think that highlights why expectation like brings along with it sometimes a form of chastisement or a need to be corrected so that now we can live up or meet that standard we both know you're capable of or that I'm capable of. And sometimes I need to be reminded of that. So that's where I think is awesome because you love me or because I love my son. I'm like, hey, you do a great job washing dishes. What's going on with you? The last couple of times you've washed dishes, you're not doing so good. Is something going on? So just noticing those things, or being willing to highlight that we're doing less than what is required. I think goes along with expectation as well, because we're all happy when we meet the expectation. Like if I got hired to do a particular job and I'm doing less than what I was hired for, eventually someone's going to call me out on that. You know,
Hmm.
so that's
Hmm.
what comes to mind when you brought up those two topics, you and Jedediah.
Absolutely. I think that when we are building in this, like you said, the A student and different things, and it's about. I think I'm trying to say with our expectations going into something, so we should identify if they was making say a B or a C or whatever. We should identify the situation, but in my expectations of it, I won't be disappointed because I understand that what it takes, right? I understand that sometimes maybe you'll drop like that. So immediately I want to see what the situation is, where I assist or somehow can I help to bring those things forth. How can I help you, in that? So those are the things that uh, you kind of see sometimes that you're trying to bring about, you know and so that's definitely good in what we are doing here. The expectations of what we have with one another, and then of course with the Father as well. In that, one of the things that let me see here. I think it's in Proverbs. Let me see if I can pull this up real quick here. It's in Proverbs, and it talks about Proverbs, the third chapter. Um, Let me see here. Let me see what we got going. Got a little. I think it was three. I know I wrote it down somewhere here. Maybe 3 and 5. Okay, 3 and 5. Trust in Yahweh with all of your heart, and then it goes on to say, and lean not on your own understanding. So this is where we are at. Is always trust in Him. Now, there is an understanding that we cannot lean on that's outside of our scriptures. And those are the things that we do sometimes, in that. You guys, let me put a thing to you. You have children. Do there are some expectations? Is there some expectations that differ from everyone, or do you give all of them the same feel like you have the same expectation for all of them? Why and why not? What do you think there, brother Jedediah?
I would say it would depend. You know, there are certain things I don't expect from my 9-year old to do that I know my 16-year old can do. Um, But there is a common thing that they all I expect all of them to do, which is the things that we practice out of the Torah. You know,
Okay. Uh-huh.
no matter your age, you can keep the Shabbat. No matter your age, you can keep the dietary law. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so that right there goes across the board. But as let's say for example, when it comes to dealing with the word, I wouldn't expect for my youngest one to just be able to get into the scriptures and read, like my 16-year-old would.
Right, right.
And so that's why I would, obviously I would have to draw a line there. Um, but I will expect for her to get there one day. I would expect to try to bring her up to that level, but I know that it would take time. It doesn't just happen right now because of her age. She's not going to be able to do those things, and there's so many other things um, that she cannot do because of her age.
Mm-hmm.
Either she physically can't do it or she mentally can't wrap her mind around it. Um, but when it comes to keeping the Torah, my expectations for them is to be able to practice it. From my 16-year-old all the way down to my 9-year-old, and not practice it, but to have an understanding of it. Now, I expect for my 16-year-old to be able to thoroughly explain what she believes, but with my 9-year-old, I expect for her to give an overview of what she believes. You know what I'm saying? Like
Uh-huh.
she won't be able to break it down like my 16-year-old. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
that's how I differ in my household with my children.
All right. Okay, that's good. So let me challenge you with this one. So what if the older one was on the level of the 9-year old? Is your expectations different then? Or are you upset? What's going on?
I'll be honest with you, it'd be hard for me not to be,
Mm-hmm.
but not to really be upset, but more to be like kind of disappointed in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I would know that that starts with me as the head of this household. Why is she at that level
Mm-hmm.
when I know my daughter, I know what she can be. You know what I'm saying? Like her GPA is off the charts.
Mm-hmm.
So why would you be at the same level as my 9-year-old, when it comes to scriptures? So, but I will always look at myself and try to figure out where did I go wrong and how can I help her get to the level where I expect for her to be. And, and at that point, I would have to lower my expectations until I'm able to build her up.
Right. Okay. Yes. Beautiful. Okay. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for. You always go to their level, but whoever it may be, right? And then you bring them up. Once you find out that your expectation of someone is that is not it, then you drop because it's going to help you. I'm talking about relationship marriages now. You drop instead of holding on to that, but you want to make sure that you do bring her up to the proper age or what you think that she should be now. But in order for us to be patient, in order for us to be kind, in order for us to endure these things, we cannot be what we call like upset about the situation. When those expectations are not what they are there. Yes, it could be disappointing, but I don't want to show the other people that it's disappointing to me, you know. Because as servants, the next thing we want to do, okay, how can we help you get to the expectation that should be desired, in that. I want to help you get there. So that's good. That's very good. That gives us another picture that we need to take from that. All right, my brother, what you thinking?
I totally agree. I think depending on what they've shown me is where I'm going to put them, because I think there's somewhere it says something along the lines, don't let them despise you because of your age. There's
Mm-hmm.
been plenty of times where I think this is a famous story. We came into the covenant of the Most High, and I didn't see anything wrong with taking my tithe out at the ATM before I came to the assembly, but it ended up being something that was a good place, to examine and look at that. Was that something I should have done on the sixth day? Is that something that I possibly could have gotten taken care of? So here it was. Here's a place of wisdom coming out of a 7-year-old. That was, surprising. So what if I put him on some level like, oh, I don't need to hear what he has to say? I could have missed out on a good opportunity for me to grow. Or, and there's similar stories like that in the scripts even. So about Samuel hearing the voice of Yah, but Eli, the high priest, not hearing it. So there's definitely stories like that. So for my sons and my daughters, where I would put them in that sense is going to be, um it's going to be based on like the originality of them seeing the commandments and
Mm-hmm.
making the commandments their own. Like they found a way to take the teachings I've given them, or that you've given them, or Brother Jedediah, or my wife, or Sister Valencia. Somebody taught them something in the Most High, and they made it their own. That's where I'm going to understand their level, because they didn't have to see it that way or embrace the commandments that way, or have some sort of interpretation that brought it to where they are doing what you said here. They're relying in Yah with their heart, and
Mm-hmm.
they're not leaning on their own understanding. They're seeing it a certain way. Oh, and I said rely there because I love this verse that you pulled out. The word there where it says trust is the Hebrew word batach, and it
Mm-hmm.
means like to rely, like to cling to something. And I think even from the same word, you get the word melon, and it's saying how the melon clings to the vine. And so the same way the melon clings to the vine is the way it's telling us, batach Yahweh, rely on Yahweh, cling to Yahweh. I love this verse. Um, I actually think we read this one every Shabbat too. But just to go back to what I was saying, if my son or my daughter has made something original about their walk with the Most High, of course, everybody has a moment. I'm not like going to change their whole status because they blew my mind at that one moment, but I'm going to keep it in my heart. I'm going to remember that they're capable of getting this because they've shown me that they came up to this conclusion on their own. Versus if I ask one of my children a question about the commandments or about the scriptures, and they just give me my answer. So they're listening to me, but it's not an original thought. They've just copied what I would say. So I'm glad that they're listening, but I know now what level they're on. They're still under development, because as far as like I said, the originality, or like what I'm seeing is the making this walk your own. Because that's the idea of what we have with our children. We're training them up so that when they get older, they don't depart from this. Well, for them not to depart, they have to find out what they're staying for. Not everybody's staying, for those reasons.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't made it their own. So that's where I'm gonna be looking for it, looking for the fact that they receive something from the Father, versus yet they're still learning, and they're hearing from the Father through me. Not that that would ever change, or through the leaders in the assembly, but there's still some place there where that transition, like we always say, like when do you become a man? Like, when are you accountable to the commandments? So like I guess you look to what your children show you for you to make that decision.
Absolutely. Uh, that's good, my brother. I think we going to. I'm gonna hit you with this one. Hit you guys with this one, and then see how that outcome pans out, right? But what do you think about this? All right. And in what ways in our walk with the Father, what ways in scriptures, right, can help us to reframe our expectations when life takes a turn that we didn't foresee, right? Sometimes, it could be sickness, it could be finances, it could be multitude of things. What causes that? What When life takes a turn like that, how can that help us in our word? What y'all thinking about that, brother?
The way I know I always look at it, it's part of the plan. It's
Mm-hmm.
Yah's will that's being done. No matter what's going on, I know that it's the Father's will. And whether it's sickness, financial situation, um, anything that's going on in my life, um, I know that me as a servant of the Father, um, through the Messiah, that this is part of not just life, but it's part of the walk.
Mm-hmm.
We're
Mm-hmm.
going to have to go through things, and I feel like I'm being refined like gold all the time, and I know Scripture speaks of that, and I'm just trying to get to a point where I don't want to let it phase me. I don't. I don't want to let it. I don't want fear to come in. I think that's Isaiah 41:10 when it talks about that. The Father will always be there for us. So there's no point of me fearing an outcome. There's no point of me getting to a point of depression. And those things happen, but it's like I want to be strong enough so I don't get there. And we have the famous, um, I don't want to say story, but we have the writings of Job and the things that he went through. He was a very strong man. It takes a very strong person with strong faith in the Most High to not only go through something like that, but just to keep your faith in the Father at all times.
Yes.
Because I know that even I don't. We expect to live healthy. We expect for everything just to go well, but it's not. That's not realistic. Things are going to happen. And the last thing we want to do is go into a place where I'm putting myself first. Let
Mm-hmm.
me go talk. Let me put myself in a place where I can get in tune with the Most High and try to just rest in Him, because I know that when I put my faith in Him and when I rest in Him, all things, no matter what it is, all matters will be taken care of. But understanding it is His will at all times. And I was trying to think of, yeah, so that was that Isaiah 41:10 that talks about that. And I think it's a beautiful scripture. And I think also in verse 13, and just just putting our trust in the Most High at all times.
Absolutely. All right. Okay, my brother, you step up to the plate.
Well, that this is definitely. I believe this is the training ground. Every Hebrew in the world, everybody who aspires to follow after Yeshua, you're gonna suffer. It's don't say that if you will suffer. He even said, for his sake, you'll be even divided in your own house. So that he came to, that's part of his work. But it's all going to be good in the end, and I think that's what makes it so intense. So with what your question was, there is, I guess, a momentary lapse at times before I consider all things joy.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes
Good, good.
sometimes I have to be, I'm like Yov, like, I mean, not Yov, like Jonah. And I see, that Yah caused this wonderful plant to grow over my head. And I have this beautiful shade, and I'm so grateful for. And then next thing you know, that it's gone. And, and now I'm upset. And I'm upset. But I have to remember it's Yah that gives and it's Yah that takes. And also I need to remember that Yah is 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 allowing certain things to happen to us. And I think my brother brought up Yov. There were certain things that weren't allowed to happen to him. And that's the thing that I think is definitely something as a disciple of Yeshua that goes back into what you had just brought up, is the trust. So I
Mm-hmm.
have to remember that no matter like what is going on in my life, there are things Yah is going to always be on my corner for good. And I can't see this momentary situation of losing the shade as an opportunity for me to think that he's cut me off from his entire covenant. And I think sometimes we get in those places to where our feelings put us so deep to where I can't even contemplate. like my brother was saying, the things of the Most High. I can't turn to Him. It's like, why can't I turn to Him? Because I'm so wrapped up in me.
Hmm.
So the
Hmm.
scriptures will say, like, mind the matters above, not those on earth, and that's Colossians 3:2. And I think I quoted it roughly, but James 1:2, consider my brothers, consider it joy, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that these trials are going to do what? They're going to increase you. So to me, I think it takes time to learn that trial isn't evil. you know, um, because if we don't learn that, we may make some mistakes where I strike the rock. There's no coming back from that. You know, I made that choice, and now I failed to esteem the Father in a matter. And it's what am I going to do now? I'm just going to go up on the mountain and die. Why? Because I've served my purpose. So I just think sometimes remembering that Yah has a purpose for us, that we can live without leaning on our own understanding. And it's funny because I was just raving about the wisdom of the Father, and this is what gets us caught up. Who would have ever contemplated resurrection? Yah did. You know, who Yah doesn't compare himself with lowly matters. He says that his words are better than rubies and gold and diadems and treasures and reefs and esteem. So in the man's eyes, they're like, okay, I'd rather just have gold. Oh, I'd rather just have esteem. Give me glory. Give me rubies. Give me treasure. But Yah saying my word is more valuable than all those things. And how like when you brought that up earlier about the how I handle that. I feel like there's two ways to handle that. I'm gonna handle that with the wisdom of men or the wisdom of the Most High. Well, I know that the wisdom of the Most High is good. It's clean. It's peaceable. It's different than the way men handle things. I've seen someone who I esteem who I love get disrespected in front of like 20 people, and you know how they handled it was a way that I have to learn how to do that. They handled it with a set apart behavior, and I think that that's where I'm trying to grow. And I think with all of this, the struggle really brings maturity, because I think with what you just said with the how do I handle the trial, is that with the trial and the correction and the chastisement, all those things are going to improve my endurance. They're going to cause me to become stronger, because pressure makes diamonds. That's the idea here, that we can be crushed but we're not destroyed. And that's the difference with us. I think there's a scripture about the Messiah, and it says that a smoldering wick he wouldn't put out, or that a bruised reed he wouldn't break. And when I'm thinking about that, it's just like, okay, well, who knows how to handle me better than he does? Who only a master musician can take a broken instrument and still play beautiful music. And with the right breath, you can breathe onto the coals and cause that small ember to reignite and become a roaring fire. So I just know that with all my hurt and with all my struggle, with all my crush, I know I have someone to relate on. So I never can, put myself as the one who suffers the most, which I think is what happens sometimes when we get hurt or we get in our feelings. That's what causes it hard for us to consider all joy. Why? Because we think I'm getting the worst of it. Well, we're not. Anything that we've fallen into, the master has given us a way of escape. And I just think that, if we have set our heart on him, we realize that he's given us the promise of everlasting life, then why would I let the cares of this world destroy my hope? You know? And those are the things that really cause me to keep going.
Absolutely. Beautiful, my brother. We're going to definitely dive into more of this. I think it's really was, things that even challenge in my mind and in my life. And hopefully that we can get the cameras connected next time. But if not, we can always enjoy one another and then our listening, and sometimes in that. So uh, I want to us to think about though during the week. Let me pull up something here that in our trusting the Father. What is our expectations of the Father, though? So when we trust in Him, relying on Him, what are some of those things that we are doing? What are some of those things that we are trusting in? So those are the things that we kind of look forward to. The next time is more. We talked a little bit about marriage, about the children. Now, next time maybe we'll talk more about the relationship between us and the Most High, right? But all we talk about is still the relationship, though. I just want us to understand that because it always has to translate into how you walk, right? It always has to translate into that. So, all right, my brothers. We going to get ready to close it out, and maybe next time we'll be able to enjoy one another, see one another. We in different locations and all of that, so I know how it could be. Sometimes the technology causes us to do the things that we do. So, uh, uh, may the Father continue to open up our understanding in every area of our life. It's a very, very important thing in that. So, did you gentlemen had any last words? Anything? All right, I don't know if we froze up. Okay, we'll take it as we'll take that as a no. Not at this time. All right, thank you so very much for those. Let me see who's there's some of you that's still hanging in with me. To say we can pull them up. Okay, we got a few that's still hanging in. So may the Father again richly bless you and hold you, and just think about some of the things that we say. How's your expectations? Where is your expectation?